introduction of yourself, and then we can get started.
Yeah, sure. Uh, Hello, everybody. My name is Zahor.
The static is kind of back. Maybe turn down the level of something because it almost sounds like it's clipping.
Maybe I'll push my mic really back. So, is this right? Or I think there's an external static. Okay, I'll switch to external mic. Okay.
Yeah, it's weird because it wasn't doing this last night.
Yeah, I think this is Jitsi stuff or something like that. I'll switch to internal mic.
Whatever you did there kind of stopped it.
It has something to do with your connection. It has something to do with your connection because it keeps going from good to inactive.
Oh, really?
But right now we don't hear any static. So.
Oh, so it's fine?
Yeah. Just leave it like that.
Sorry, everybody. Hey, hi. My name is Zahur. You will find different versions of my name over the internet. Muhammad Zahur, Zahur Muhammad, J. Muhammad Zahur, and things like that. But people call me Zahur, Zah, whatever. So I have like 22, 23 years of experience working in different domains: telecom, big data, distributed systems, almost for 20 years. And then like machine learning, artificial intelligence, neural network, all sorts of stuff. There's some other static. That's not me.
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay. So and then I actually sort of jumped into crypto bandwagon somewhere late 2016. So I started to see if I can go and commit to some project. So I joined Ethereum Foundation. I was working in a project called Ethereum Swarm that was supposed to be the storage layer of the blockchain, where at some point people thought that not storing all the stuff, all the Ethereum transactions into one single machine would be a possibility. So they were like envisioning that we should have some sort of distributed storage. So I worked in that for close to 5 years. Worked mostly in the protocol research, building protocols, building the system, rebuilding the system again. Going through the whole, I would say whole 9 yards. And then I joined Prismatic Labs, who are building Prism. Prism is one of the...
Everybody, can I pause you for a second? That static is getting really bad again.
Oh, okay. I'm really sorry for that. Let me just quit and then join only once. Okay?
Okay, sure. It's really strange. It almost seems like it reminds me of the antenna days. When you're trying to catch the TV reception and you have to adjust the antenna. Most of you probably don't know what that's all about.
I can barely remember what it was like to try to move the antenna on a radio and get some static on the radio based on the antenna. I think I must have been so young when I was doing that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we used to do that on the TVs. Like adjust the antenna just right so you get a clearer picture. There's even stories of people climbing their roof to adjust the antenna, falling off and dying. So.
Nice. Hey, Puneet, thanks for joining. It looks like you had some good insight on the node rewards earlier in the day.
Hello, Greg. Nice chatting with you. Thank you so much for the welcome.
Yes, of course. So is your background in computer science or finance or?
I am an engineer, electrical and electronics engineer. I've been into supply chain, but in 2017 I started off my own consultancy. So I'm dealing with lots of global scenarios which are happening. Let it be mediation, let it be new market penetration, technology. I'm trying to introduce different technology also in different countries. At present, my focus area is Africa because a lot of development is happening on Africa on infrastructure level. But blockchain has been garnering my interest since 2011. So I've been just following this space. I'm not a computer science engineer, but I'm trying to learn coding and I'm trying to get into this space.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, can you actually hear me clearly now?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so I switched my mic. I don't know what happened to my external mic. So yeah, so I worked in
Prismatic.
Yeah, I was working in Prismatic. I worked mostly on the Ethereum merge that's going to happen in Q2. So the code is done already, but there are a lot of research involved on how to actually merge. There are like two things, right? There's Ethereum, which is already running, and then you have a beacon chain, which is having almost like $1 billion of contract already on that. Then you have to merge both the chains, which is essentially moving from proof of work to proof of stake like this on a given date and time. So that is one of the most I should say challenging stuff to do. And then I joined Shardium because I spent so much time on Ethereum all the way. I was thinking that why didn't we do this at the beginning itself, right? There were a lot of things that I was asking. Why are we doing this now? Why didn't we do it beginning? I mean, in the starting, why didn't we really think about this? I think it's actually because nobody thought that this would go so wild, right? Number one. Number two is that it's still a nascent field at the time, and these things were sort of later added as a patchwork on top of this, like moving to proof of stake, and then sharding, data sharding, and then initially there was like state sharding, but now they're not doing state sharding, so they are moving everything to layer 2s because slowly we are seeing that roll-ups are moving from academic academic thing to slight reality. It still has a long way to go, but yeah. So once it comes up, all these things. I was just thinking that why didn't we think about sharding? Why did anybody has to store all the records and things like that? And then when I actually met Omar, and he started to explain to me all the stuff that he has taught. He has given.
Oops, you might want to.
Yeah, and I thought that okay, so there is like a lot of things that I have a lot of things that I was thinking, and like Omar was already having it in paper, working on that, and then I thought that would be a good thing to sort of join Shardeum and then like work with him to improve this more, right? I mean, so to bring different perspective into Shardeum and try to see if I can help them help us grow and make this like a really nice vetted blockchain, layer 1 chain itself, right? General purpose chain, right? So yeah, that's the reason why I joined Shardium.
Yeah, and all the deep knowledge that you have about Ethereum and uh, all the uh, stuff around Ethereum, the different projects and all your years of working in the distributed field space, that's going to help a lot. So definitely very happy to have you on the team, and yeah, and I'm sure it's going to help make Shardeum an even better product. So
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope so. Yeah.
cool. Greg, should we get started?
Yeah. I guess what are your plans for topics today?
Well, just first, let's just have like anybody that wants to do intros. I know some of the people have done intro. I remember them from before, but there's some new faces. And then today, I was thinking of like maybe talking about the node reward stuff. Which we've been thinking about, and we have talked about previously as well too. But yeah, I think that's a hot topic. And then, what you sent me last night about here, that's going to be interesting. Somebody's mic keeps getting louder and louder.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's just Zahor was
there you go.
Going a little bit. Yeah, it's
okay. Yeah,
no worries. But hey, Gagan, good evening or morning, depending on where you are.
Hi, Greggy. Hi, Omar. Hello, everyone. This is Gagan, and I'm based out of India, near Delhi. I am a computer science graduate with 15-year experience, and basically I've been architecting platforms for various domains for various clients, and I'm into tech, but lately I've been into you can say consulting, cloud migration, and all the things which is happening right now. The crypto experience, in 2016 I came to know about this Ethereum and all the things. I did some hands-on, but at the time there was not proper use case identified, and the clients were not even ready, and as a tech stack it was maturing. So I somehow left it at there, but I kept my eyes on it. But last 2 years now it has grown significantly, lot of use cases with metaverse and then IoT, digital twins. So again my interest peaked into it, and now in another 2 months I will be fully leaving my organization, and I will be fully into the Web3 and blockchain space, and have some idea. But first, I happen to listen to one Twitter space with Nishchal, and that's how I came to know accidentally. I was not tracking Shardium specifically, but that day I listened Nishchal, then I did some research on Shardium, and it looked very promising, and basically the idea of the scaling and all the things that is fascinating, and that's why I hooked into it. And currently I'm restarting my Web3 blockchain journey, and hopefully to contribute in a meaningful manner to this community. That's all from my side.
Awesome.
Great to have you.
Thanks, Gagan.
And it looks like Amar's joined.
Yeah.
Amar, you wanna? I think this is the first time you've been on this. Want to do a quick intro? Or maybe he's not quite there.
Or if you are there, Amar, you're just on mute.
Yeah, or maybe he joined and got up to get some coffee or something.
Yeah. I can't see who AK is behind the toolbar at the bottom here. Jim Potiphar, do you want to introduce yourself?
I think that AK is me, right? Anjanesh Kumar. Yeah, hi everyone. This is the first time I'm joining. Basically, I came to know about this I think a week before, and no, basically I'm a software engineer, a full stack developer. Currently, I'm working for a company which is based out of US. I came to know about the crypto and the blockchain around 2015 or 16. At that time, I tried different things like Bitcoin mining, and then went into some trading. Uh, I also went into some crash course to learn about it, but at that time, I didn't know. I was not fully into it, so then I dropped off. And then last week, when I came to know about this one, it sounds pretty exciting. The main reason is the open source nature of it. So I thought, let us join the team. Let us see how it goes, and let us see if I can contribute into this one, and along the way, if I can learn. So that is the purpose I am here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you.
Thank you. It looks like we have Jim Hoddlepert left and Vijanath, who I think we've spoken with Vijanath before, but if you want to introduce yourself again, that'd be great.
Sure.
Yeah,
Am I audible?
Yeah, it's audible.
Yeah. We'll go with Jim Hoddlepert first and then Vijanath. Jim, if you want to unmute yourself.
Sure, thanks. Dan. So, hey everyone, good morning. I am currently joining from India, and basically I'm a product person. I work in a product role in a Web2 B2B SaaS startup, and currently I'm just exploring the Web3 world. And recently I started interacting with mates at Shardeum Discord server, and I've been learning a lot and looking forward to more such sessions in future.
Great.
And Vijanath?
Yeah, hi Greg. Hi Omar and everyone. Shardians, hi. I am from India, Bangalore, and I am into crypto from 2017. And basically I am a software engineer, developer into a .NET and design side. I came to crypto in 2017 and started with basic trading, get to know about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything. So I keep on researching this blockchain and Web3 space. Is it audible to everyone?
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah. And I follow Nischal from day one, and I'm a big follower of Nischal and all Indian community. Yeah. So Shardium, from day one, I am following in all the Twitter, social media, and I'm a part of Discord also. I'm learning Solidity programming now, basic Solidity programming, writing ERC token and NFT contracts. I met with Gregor also, discussed how I can contribute to the Shardium. I liked its OCC approach, open collaborative community. And I am very excited for Shardium launch, for AlphaNet launch. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, great to have you in the community.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Thank you, Omar.
Thanks, Vijanath. Yeah, we've seen you've been very active, and it's been great to have you.
Now I initiated a Kannada channel, regional Kannada channel in Shardium Discord. So I talked with Subbu and Harsh, and we created a Kannada channel now. It's a regional language here in Karnataka, and I want to create a blogs and contribute to Shardium.
Very nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess, does anyone have any technical questions about Shardium before we start talking about, or we go into the agenda?
Yeah, I mean, it's not too much of an agenda. I mean, if we want to talk about other things, we can as well. But just thought it would be kind of cool to talk about the node reward stuff again, following the recent article that you showed me with Anir.
So sounds like there aren't any questions right now. Yeah, so last night I shared an article, just the Near web page with Omar. Yesterday I learned this listening to a live stream that Near Protocol gives developers 30% of fees generated from the contracts that they've created. And it's the first time I've heard that, and I'm not really aware of any other smart contract platforms that reward developers with 30% of fees their contracts generate. So, thought that was an interesting strategy, and we'll see how it works out. There's a lot of economics that goes on, and, I'm not sure if it'll go positively or negatively or how it will work, but I thought it was an interesting strategy.
Is this planned or is this already implemented? Oh, I didn't really dig into that article too much. We were kind of busy with other stuff.
That's one of the thing about different projects is like they say there's a lot of things, but then if it's actually happening or not, you don't truly know. So
right.
I don't know if it's actually happening right now or if it's something they're planning.
Yeah, but I think it's generally a really good idea. That's kind of like a big, incentive for developers to say, oh, you know what, if I deploy something here, I'm going to get extra income just from all the transaction fees. So even if it doesn't amount to being too much, it'll be enough to get developers to at least try it.
Yeah, I was curious how do you decide what percent you want to give? Like, how did they decide 30%? How do you decide? And can it change over time? Is there a better way to do it?
Yeah, go ahead. Really, you want to say something?
Yeah. I mean, my this thing is that it's up to the developer. I think we should not enforce this in the protocol. We should give it up to the developer that how much percent he wants to take. It's up to him, right? So I mean, like somebody might want to actually give it away free, right? Somebody might want to actually take away, like, no, I want to take away 70% of the transaction fee, things like that. So you actually don't know. I mean, like I think on the protocol level, we have to be as open as possible. We have to have, provisions in the protocol where, people can fix this number based on the DAP, right? That's how I see it. So that's one thing that,
Also, with this idea, suppose if a protocol enforces such kind of fee to developer, is there any kind of mechanism to show to the public saying that, okay, this particular contract is taking that much fees, but this security rating or the correctness of this particular contract is that much? I mean, if public wants to consume some contract, how they can be sure about the security and the correctness and the quality of the contract?
So basically it's okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's giving some fees to the developer. It's not like charging the developer or anything, but there is a little bit of a security issue here, right? Because suppose, I set up some contracts and then I said, 100% of the fees come back to me, and then basically I can spam the network, right? Because I'm not losing any transaction fees now. So we can't really allow somebody to, like, maybe there might be some upper limit as to how much you can allow them to set the fees to. And then the other thing is like implementation wise, allowing flexible fees does make things a little bit more complex. And then you have to allow, them. Do we allow them to change it once they set it? Most likely you probably would. And then you have to track different fees for different contracts, and and then allowing those to change, and it does add complexities to the implementation. Whereas if the whole network says like, oh, it's a fixed fee, then everybody can get the same fee. And then also the other thing that happens from that is like if you have fixed fees, then everybody has a well-defined understanding of where the fees are going. And if somebody set the fee to 0 and said like I don't want to take any, then basically I think those fees would get rolled back so that they get earned by the miners. So the transaction fees are either going to the miners or going to the developers. Just having some amount go to the developer, I think does make sense. But yeah, I mean, like, how do we know the contract is good and all that? I think that still is, an issue. But I don't think it's going to impact things too much, whether we add fees or not.
Yeah, Omar, I was thinking about it last night. I agree. I think it's important to allow developers to be able to choose whether they want to, what fee they want to charge. It should be variable. And then this also creates competition between applications. I think users then have the choice of picking the application that, the fees may be the same actually, but the fees may go to different places. But what would happen if there are then variable fees for miners, where some transactions you get a higher fee and then some a lower fee? Could nodes prioritize certain transactions?
Well, just the fees going to the developer. The fee amount would still be the same, right? Like for any particular transaction, you have to submit some fee X regardless of who it goes to. But we're just now controlling like how that fee gets divided. But yeah, I think it's gonna be something to think about. I do like the idea overall.
Or maybe would it make any sense to do it differently, where we, instead of building this into the protocol, we take it out of the protocol? We can still reward developers, but maybe the funds are sent to a smart contract, and then the smart contract just dynamically distributes the SHM to developers and rewards them. I don't know, maybe it doesn't need to be built into the protocol, and there's a different way to reward developers.
No, it has to be built into the protocol to at least detect that it was happening. Or I guess you're saying if you could have some other monitoring service, and
I guess if the fees were fixed to go to a fund, like a smart contract fund, where it's just an address where all of this fee is sent to, and you're building up a stack of SHM over time, and then that smart contract distributes the SHM to developers.
No, but still, you got to know okay, this amount, who gets how much. You still have to track that number somewhere. If you just pull it all together, then you'd have to go back and look through the history of transactions and figure out who gets how much. If you didn't keep track of that.
Got it.
And so it will be in a normal term, it will be checking the API usage of the backend, right? So you are collecting the metrics for usage of the contract, and as Greg mentioned, if that matrix is available from the fund, proportionality developer can be incentivized. Is that what you are saying, Omar?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess the way
Sorry,
I'm thinking.
There we go. He muted himself. Yeah, Gagan, when you leave your mic unmuted, it echoes very loudly.
Yes. So what I'm thinking is like when somebody deploys a smart contract, or they have some other field associated with that smart contract that says this is my reward address, and then whenever a transaction happens that involves that smart contract, then some portion of the fees get sent to, so let's say the total fee for this contract was 100 units, right? And then with the way Near is doing it, 30 of those units would be sent to the reward address for the smart contract, and then the other 70 would go back most likely to the miners. Now, it does also cause complexities when you have multiple smart contracts getting activated by the same transaction, right? Like you have some composability, and then one contract calls another, and that calls a third, and so forth. How do you really decide, who gets how much? There's a lot of little finer things that have to be thought through with this. But overall, though, I think it is a pretty interesting idea. The other way you could do it is rather than doing it right up front, you would have some external system keep track of, like metrics, right? Like, there are services like DeFi Llama and things like that that track, post the transactions, just go through induced analysis on which contract has been, getting more transactions sent to it and so forth. And then based on that, you could say like, okay, well, we had a total of, let's say $1 million worth of transactions this month. And then out of that, 30% would be 300,000. And then out of that, we figure out like, which smart contracts got the most calls, or, just kind of do it proportionally and then distribute that 300,000, across those smart contracts. But that kind of takes things out of the protocol, and then you kind of have to, trust that this external system is going to do things right. But that would, not create any kind of load on the protocol in terms of trying to figure out how much to give to which contract on the fly. And also something like that could also be implemented for protocols that are like Ethereum, or that didn't originally have anything built to handle something like this. You could just like take funds from the foundation and then say like, oh, each month we're going to distribute funds to smart contracts that got a lot of usage or whatever based on the amount of usage.
So yeah, I mean, like, since you spoke about Ethereum, so what they are doing is that, to incentivize protocol developers, is that they're actually forming a guild, which is based on, some kind of, like extra smart contracts and all these things, splitter contract and all these things, where, the Ethereum Foundation will collect and put the developers on their, all the, whatever they think, and then any application which since let's say Uniswap. So Uniswap is maybe ready to give $1 million USD. So it comes into splitter, automatically it splits, and like it goes to the respective protocol developer, because protocol developers are often ignored. Right? And app developers are like, they are like enjoying, actually speaking, they are enjoying a lot. I mean, like, they have a lot of money. So, so I think this idea is like not that important at this time, just because that they can actually always put in their smart contract that I'm going to charge you this much, and they take the money out of your pocket, because anyway you have said approve, and I will just transfer it to my wallet as well, right? So that's how it works right now, and that is doing outside of protocol. If you do inside protocol, that's as I said. I mean, like there are we have to speak about a lot more other things about you have to set an upper limit and things like that, and you have to look at a lot of other things also, right? It's an extra work for the protocol to to do this, right? Which actually can be done outside, right? So if it can be done off band, you should do that. You should use only in band protocol only for stuff where you really need consensus, right? Splitting it 30-20 is, I mean, it doesn't need much of a consensus. Consensus is that this transaction is accepted, right? Now, after that, outside, we can build applications which can split this, or they can charge some amount of money to do this service, things like that. So there are some ups and downs. I don't know. It depends on the community, what the community really wants.
I was going to say, that was the next thing I was thinking, is that anyhow, like, this feature was kind of there if anybody wanted to put that into their smart contract, right? So if any smart contract developer wanted usage-based fees given to them, then they could have actually implemented this in their smart contract. Now, one of the things though is that, like, from game theory perspective, if it's a choice, then the smart contract developer will not want to put it in there, right? Because then he's kind of like hurting himself, because if somebody else makes the same DApp and doesn't have this additional fee, then people are going to use that DApp, right? Now, if it's not a choice, then that smart contract developers will be like, oh, you know what? Hey, I'm not the bad guy charging you. It's just part of the protocol. But he knows he benefits, and so he's more interested to build on this platform, right? So there's some also, some game theory aspects to this, where if you don't give the developers a choice, but you still reward them, they're kind of happy to say that, oh, you know what, hey, I didn't charge you this, but they still like the fact that they're getting some money from it. So
I agree.
I mean, so that, with that, everything that you like, there's a lot of aspects to think about, right? Security aspects, the game theory, the complexities for implementation and so forth. So so they're not light decisions.
Cool. Any other questions or thoughts around, like, what do you guys think about this idea of incentivizing developers based on the number of transactions their smart contracts produce? Any other thoughts here?
I think overall it looks good to attract the developer attention, where there are very less blockchain developer. At the start it looks good, but like other people were discussing, we have to think about the other dimensions also, like the security and the transaction cost. So there are few corner cases that has to be handled before this can be added into the protocol layer. And basically we have to see whether it has to go in the protocol layer, or are there other means available to incentivize the developers. So if without complicating the original thing, we can come up with some other way to compensate the developer. That will be a good option also.
Right, right. And, we do have an ecosystem fund planned with Shardeum where, we do have funds available to, incentivize developers to build on the platform. But of course, they're external to the protocol. And, maybe that might be sufficient, but we'll have to see like how the messaging of this is taken up, right, by the development community. So we'll have to keep an eye on it and see, is this really helping Near attract a lot more developers to the platform and so forth. And if it is, I don't mind incorporating that in Shardium at all. One of the nice things about us coming late to the game is we can, look at what's worked for other platforms and adapt the, best from everybody. So.
Yeah. And to me, it just kind of feels like a marketing tactic to use right now. But, in 10, 20, 30 years, I'm not sure how necessary, that fee will be. Or I don't know, like what it would be like in 10, 20, 30 years. But yeah, I mean, there are so many ways we could incentivize developers. So it just takes a lot of thought around what's the best approach.
Mm-hmm.
But so last night, Omar, I don't know, it's only 14 minutes left until 10. I don't know how long you want to go over. But last night in the Node Rewards channel, so there's been a lot of research done on different approaches. And, the Nishal, it seemed, was starting to lean towards halving over time. But it sounds like halving would cause a lot of sell pressure at every halving event, because in proof of work, when halving happens in proof of work, your miners are heavily invested in the hardware to mine in proof of work. So if the value of Bitcoin reduces, it's not easy for them to just give up and sell all their hardware and get out. But in proof of stake, you can just, remove your stake and go invest in a protocol that's going to pay you more after the halving event. Or, so you could invest in maybe staking on something in a pool would give you a higher interest than the halving would. Or maybe going to a different smart contract platform with higher fees, So it's much easier to just remove your stake. People think it would cause a lot of sell pressure with the halving event. So, I thought about maybe gradually, kind of reverse halving isn't the right word, but gradually increasing the fees over time of a period 30 years. That way we attract more and more and more node operators and retain them instead of losing them.
Well, I mean, how do we continue to increase the fees? Because we have only a limited amount of fees that we can give out, right?
Yeah, so halving starts with, the highest amount of reward distributed at first and, halves over time and reduces. So, why not do it backwards? Think with gamification, businesses use gamification to align the human activity they want with incentives. So if I want people to make more sales, I'm going to come up with some incentive strategy to incentivize them to make more sales. The goal of Shardium is to attract more node operators over time and retain them. So to me, it doesn't make sense to reduce the fee over time. It makes sense we only have a fixed amount, but distribute it in a way where it gradually increases over time instead of decreasing.
Yeah, but increasing it is probably eventually you can increase it only so much, right? And then suddenly you run out of money to be able to give to the miners. And so you're eventually going to go from, ramping up to suddenly, okay, we ran out of fees, guys. And or maybe you have to level off or do something else. But my thinking was that we should try to give every node operator some well-known amount of fees and keep it constant. like start at the same and try to keep it the same in terms of like a dollar measurable amount, right? Like let's say a node operator can calculate and say that, you know what, for running this node, I'm going to earn $500 a month, regardless of how many other nodes there are in the network. And you know, that's not going to change over time. And so then he can calculate that, oh, you know what, if I spend $50 or $100 on the node hardware, then yeah, I'm going to make out pretty well, right? Now, that's actually a really good, you know, return on your money, but it turns out that then you can say that, well, not just the money that you need to run the node, but you have to stake some SHM, right? So then you have to look at that cost as well. So then, you know, let's say you require that, okay, let's say you have to stake, say $5,000 worth of SHM also. So then he can calculate that, well, okay, I'm staking $5,000 SHM over a year, but over a year, if I get, you know, 500 per month, like maybe minus 100 off of that. So basically, you know, 4,000. Yeah, it still comes with 12 months. It still comes out close to like 5,000 that he would earn, and then he could say, you know, calculate that. Hey, even on the amount that I'm staking, I'm earning 100% APR, right? So it still works out for him that way, and so doing something like that, I think, can make sure that we have sufficient nodes and that they're well incentivized to be able to keep operating and they don't have to take risks with things. And then, okay, over time, what happens is if you roll back the transaction fees back into the mining pool, even though there's a cap on, you know, there's only that 51% allocated to ever be given to the node operators, what's going to happen is that it's going to get recycled, right? Because as transaction fees come in, that's going to cause, you know, the rewards to come, be collected in the pool, and then being able to give to the miners again. And so now, you know, the other thing, what's that?
I was just going to say, it looks like Vijayanath and Puneet both have something to say, so wanted to let
Oh
them
yeah,
know.
go ahead, guys.
Go ahead, Vijayanath.
Yeah, Omar. Omar and Gregor, incentivizing the smart contract developer, what we were discussing. I have one thought that, a negative thought actually. If a smart contract developer is smart enough, he can write a script which can deploy a contract recurringly every 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So how we can, or a Shardeum can differentiate the smart contract deploying to the chain is from a human being or from a machine? So we will be in a recurring loop incentivizing that smart contract.
Well, I guess, you know, at the end of the day, transaction fees have to be paid, right?
Yeah,
so he's gonna.
Transaction has to be paid, but if a developer is smart enough to know that to differentiate the fees is less and I'm getting incentivized more.
So I mean, he's gonna be spending.
It's actually very simple. I mean, even you can take your copies of, like, I mean, you can write a smart contract, you can deploy it like 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. We are not going to give you, the developer incentive is not for every smart contract that is instantiated.
Okay.
The developer incentive is for anyone who is using the smart contract and is paying the transaction fees, right? So if you are actually a good guy, like if your application or smart contract is good, right? A lot of people will start to use your smart contract. And for every smart contract, so we can actually say, let's say, if I charge X amount in a transaction fees, so we can say that, okay, out of that X, now 30% can go to the developer of this, particular smart contract through which the transaction came, and then 70% will go to the miners. Right? This is an example I'm just saying, just for you to know. It can instantiate like 500,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Okay, first of all, a contract cannot instantiate so much because it has to pay transaction fees to create a contract, right? So it will have a theoretical limit. That's number one. But what we're speaking is that you will not be incentivized if you just install or if you just deploy a smart contract. You will be incentivized only if somebody is paying the transaction fees and transacting through your smart contract, right? I mean, if somebody thinks that, right? So that's the amount that we share or not is what we're discussing. Right? I hope I made it clear.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the only way to take advantage of that, if someone was very dumb and they didn't think about this, they would just take their own funds and send a ton of transactions through it and then lose money because they're going to lose 70% of that to fees and only get 30% back.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could, if they're a bad actor, they could try to manipulate people to send transactions through their smart contract in any way. Like someone could show up at your house with a baseball bat and tell you to spend all your money through their contract. But I don't know why they would tell you to go through their contract. They would just tell you to give you their money instead of spending it on their contract. But yeah, that's the only other way, I think. It's just bad actors manipulating in deceiving ways.
Yeah.
But I think Paneet is next.
Thank you so much, Gregor. Thank you so much, Omar and Zahur, for sharing your insights. We were discussing the rewarding scheme and halving. The main intent why we are discussing halving is it reduces the supply, which in turn is creating a demand as seen in past for Bitcoin. Now, the concern which is raising because of halving and our POS concept is the nodes are not getting rewarded. So as you were mentioning, Omar, is it possible we can look at a model where we are not only giving a fixed incentive to all the nodes, but there is also a variable component which is based on the time the node has been there in the system?
Yeah, or actually, the other thing that I was going to suggest is that just have some sort of a lottery type of a thing, right? So that there's some variable gamification to this, where Nishal always says one of the things with Bitcoin that people really liked in the early days was that you would run your miner and then watch the screen to see hey, did I actually create a block and receive 50 Bitcoin? And I remember in the very early days there was even people putting up videos on YouTube of them, of their miner hitting 50 Bitcoins. I'm sure people have taken those down now because they don't want to be identified anymore. But yeah, it was like a big incentive. It was like playing a game kind of a thing, because at the time, nobody even thought that this was any money, but the gamification aspect of it kept them kind of engaged. That, hey, look, I just was the lucky guy that got to get 50 Bitcoins. And yeah, we could probably have some component of it where we can have some reward like that that's kind of done randomly.
Yeah. I'm sorry, one more point. There was one more concern which came up. If we are incentivizing the old nodes which have been in the system for a longer time, the new nodes might be discouraged for joining the system. So that was also one of the concerns which came up.
Yeah, so that I don't think that's going to happen because the way we're designing the system is that automatically the older nodes get rotated out, and when you join, you'll be part of the system until you become the oldest node, and so there's this constant rotation, and from the pool of standby nodes, we're always pulling a node out of that to join the network.
Great. Thank you so much, Omar.
It's actually easy to think like this. So think all of these nodes as like a pool of guys who I want to pick. Like let's say I want to pick some X amount of guys to agree on the consensus, right? It's like a committee of guys around that. So what I will do, I will randomly pick like X guys and will ask them, hey, can you guys vote on this particular transaction? So they will all say yes, it's right or not, signature is bad, good or bad. So as soon as I get 51%, or usually it's actually 2/3, but once I get 51%, I can be sure that okay, most of the assumption here is that most of them are honest because they have actually staked their money there. So right, so then I can say that okay, so this transaction is okay. Now if I get another transaction, now I have to pick another group of guys. Now if I do this for every transaction, it will take some time. So what we do is that we actually pick randomly and then keep it for some time, and then we actually sort of pick guys out who are there for longer time out and giving randomly picking guys inside and things like that. So if this is a nice random uniform distribution, so most likely no new node will be starved of a validator duty, right? So this is a duty, right? So it will be picked up in 2-3 cycles and then it will be thrown out, or it will be given to another shard. Hey, you actually go to this shard. So this kind of shuffling will keep on happening all the time at very short intervals. So what you get is that you get this randomness, so that any bad actor cannot take a shard immediately, right? Because if I take him first in first out, then I can very easily put 16 nodes in the front, and then once the 16 nodes go and land to a shard, I can say that I will not do anything in the shard, right? Mm-hmm. So I will not do consensus on the shard. So this is called shard takeover. That will not happen because you will just keep on rotating guys, and one guy has to spend an enormous amount of money to actually capture shard. This is reminding me of booth capturing in voting stations. So it requires enormous amount of money and this thing to stake, because if you do all these things, you will get slashed, right? And it's gone. Money is gone, right? So if you do this writing protocol, right? So this will become so random that you will not be able to say which set of nodes will validate my transaction. If I do a transaction, I would not know which set of validators are going to actually say yes or no. Because if I know, then I can go and bribe them or do anything like that. So I don't know, right? So you will pick random, and in random, the assumption, as in every blockchain, right? So this is in all Byzantine fault tolerant systems. The assumption is that honest majority, right? Majority is honest. This is the basic of the game theory, right? So if honest is not majority, in actually proof of stake, people will actually end up losing a lot of money. But if you have few nodes that can take up shards and can run it will still run, right? So that's the beauty of the system. right?
Thanks, Sahur. Yeah, it's 10:04, so I'm not sure how much more time Omar has left, but really want to let the community talk as much as
Do we want to take the question that?
It looks like Karidi has been patiently waiting to say something. So.
Hi everyone, hi Omar. Thanks for the great insights. My question might be very basic, linked from two dimensions. One is performance of Shardium, and then second thing is on the incentivizations of the nodes connecting to Shardium. These days, majority of the nodes or the farms which are running today are also coming from the mobile devices, which has the good compute power and good memory. However, the performance gets lost because of the backend networking, which is always kind of microwave or maybe other aspects. So another thing is, have you thought of tackling issues on those terms? So another connected question to this is, if we are having a mobile device joining us into Shardium as shards, as mobile, definitely an identity would be provided to it. And secondly, if there is a good server somebody's running at home as a node, definitely the performance of the node which is running at a home network connected to wire would be performing good. So the incentivizations, if we kind of fix it for a node maybe per month basis, then it would be kind of discriminatory distributions, right, in terms of power and performance, what we want to do. Have we thought about that? Maybe I would have missed it if it has already been discussed, but performance and incentivizations, these are the two major aspects which I'm looking to think about.
Right. Yeah. So, the one thing is that it's really hard to control what hardware somebody uses to, when they, on their node when they're joining the network. But one of the, things that we're going to be doing in Shardium is that we keep track of nodes that are not performing well, and for that, then they can get booted out of the network, and there may even be some slashing and things like that. So you may actually end up losing money trying to join the network using a very incapable hardware. So for that reason, I think that will incentivize people to make sure that they're on a good connection, they have good hardware and so forth. So that's the one thing. And then what was your question on the performance?
Yep, that was on the mobile devices.
I think over time, as we get to faster mobile networks, and the computing on the.
Omar, I think you accidentally muted yourself or something. I'm not sure what happened.
I think we all got muted.
Oh, it looks like Dropkick somehow has been able to mute everyone.
Okay. All right. As the network speeds get better on mobile, and the mobile devices are already pretty good and will probably continue to get better. I do see, a scenario where somebody could run a node on a mobile device, and then have it join the network. One of the things, though, that they would have to, keep in mind is that they probably want to make sure that their device is plugged to the outlet and getting charged while it's doing that, because it may put a lot of load on their device, and they probably couldn't do this while they're roaming around.
You're right.
Yeah. But no, it's not impossible. We've already demonstrated, like with LibreDisk, we demonstrated that, we can run a node using a Raspberry Pi behind a home network, where, you're behind a NAT and all that. So in one of our quarterly demonstrations for Shardians, we've actually shown that. Yeah.
All right, nice. Thank you.
And one other thing I just wanted to mention is that, with this node rotation going on, we can do some like quick calculations to see, how things are going to pan out. So, imagine like if the cycle time is 1 cycle per minute, and then we swap out like one oldest node and we bring in one new node each minute over a 24-hour period, we're going to be able to change like 1,400 some nodes. And so that means even if we had, 1,400 nodes active in the network and 1,400 nodes standing, and waiting in standby, every 2 days, a node is guaranteed to pretty much guaranteed to serve for at least 24 hours, right? So, and then the other thing that happens is if your network actually gets bigger, like let's say you have now, 3,000 active nodes, in that case you can swap in 2 nodes every minute and take out 2 nodes, and so you're still kind of guaranteeing that the nodes out there will get to participate at least once, in like a 2-day period. But then what really determines is how many total standby nodes there are. So if there were very few standby nodes, then these nodes are actually participating even more than 24 hours. But then if you had like say 10x the number of standby nodes that you have for the active nodes, then it's going to be like every 10 days your node is going to get to participate for 24 hours. And what will happen from that is that people will automatically do the calculation and say that there's already a lot of nodes in standby. It's probably not worth it for me to run another node and contribute to this network. And so, that will kind of adjust and people will actually, we don't have to do anything. We just have to control how much reward that we're going to be, giving the node operators and, calculate it in terms of a dollar amount. And then from that, they can do all the calculations to figure out, whether to contribute resources or not. And if we're seeing that we're not getting enough resources, we just have to increase the amount that we, give to the node operators. Or in some cases, like if let's say you've run out of new money to be able to give, and you're recycling the money, then you have to really think about like increasing the transaction fees, right? So that you can have that money to cycle back in and give more to the node operators. So yeah.
Thank you.
Curdy, real quick, also, I've noticed you've asked a lot of good technical questions on Discord. Does your background include experience with distributed systems or software development?
Yep, I am actually coming from a cloud distributed background, so I'm a performance analyst along with cloud architect. So my interest in blockchain has been running from little over 1.5 years, and bit of development. I'm learning smart contracts these days, so not an expert, but just wanted to get along with you guys.
Very cool. Omar, I think you get a lot of feedback there. I muted you, Omar, so once that's fixed, you can unmute and talk. But Brightly Stake, I think you've been waiting to ask a question as well. If you want to unmute yourself, Brightly Stake. Still a lot of feedback, Omar.
Even now?
Yeah, it's, I think I don't know what happened. The sensitivity of your mic went up.
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right. So my question was kind of answered already. So I'm just dropping in for the first time, just trying to understand everything about Shardeum. So thank you.
Awesome. Any questions about Shardeum since your first time dropping in? You feel free to ask anything you want.
Yeah, we basically operate as validators in quite a few networks. So we were quite interested because of the buzz that has been created. So we have to kind of get started right from the scratch. Looks very good, but it looks promising as well. So it's too early for me to say anything. I'm just trying to understand a bit more. I think I asked a question about how we have different sort of consensus. So basically, that is the level of understanding I have at this moment. So probably once I listen more and then probably read more, I'll be at a better stage to comment more. So just getting started now.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks for reaching out. It looks like you have experience running validators on a lot of networks. So, one thing we're doing right now is trying to come up with, the best mining strategy, the node mining reward strategy. And maybe you have some good input there from your experience on various different smart contract platforms. But with that said, Ingemels, it looks like, has joined, and he's been spearheading a lot of the research on proposals for node mining reward strategies with Shardeum. Thanks for joining, Ingemels. One thing you missed before you joined, Omar was talking about like a fixed node mining reward fee strategy based on like a dollar value, say every month forever. Nodes are going to be rewarded, say $400 a month, based like static to a USD value. But one of the cool things about Bitcoin in the early days was the gamification of it, where people were really excited to see who's going to win the lottery and like win this, like mine the block and get the 50 Bitcoin. Like that was really exciting to a lot of people to have that experience. So we could have a similar function with Shardium where there's a random lottery that's given out. I thought that's a really cool concept of like ensuring everyone has a fixed fee reward, but also still adding in that gamification concept where there's a lottery as well. One thing that I think is important though, Omar, is to also reward loyalty over time. Like how can we reward someone for being a loyal node operator for 10 or 15 years? In traditional businesses today, that concept has been around a long time. The more coffees you buy from a coffee shop, the more points you're going to accrue, and then eventually you get a free coffee. How can we, implement something similar to Shardium? But yeah, Ingemels, what are your thoughts on like a lottery with like a fixed fee strategy? And also, like, what have you been leaning towards in your research? What do you think is the most unique idea that's been thought of so far for the reward strategy?
Yeah, good question. I think the idea of having like a flat structure is very fair, which I think is the one thing that this project wants to get out. So I think that's nice. So I do like that, and I like the gamification. I think that's the best of both worlds. In terms of what I'm leaning to in terms of an issuance strategy and a node reward strategy, I've genuinely changed my mind on what I think is the best idea 1,000 times whilst researching. Each idea has got so many advantages and disadvantages that there isn't exactly one strategy that is obviously the knight in shining armor, which is the one that keeps everyone happy and is perfect. So many different variables, and every time we think in the forum we'll chat about it, and every time we think we get there, like, this seems to work, someone will come up with a great valid idea that kind of counters it and goes, actually we could come up with this problem. So at this point I'm not 100% sure. I obviously the initial issuance idea was that to be as Bitcoin like as possible, which I understand that, because Bitcoin is the de facto standard, but in my opinion, Bitcoin is its own thing. I don't see Bitcoin as being in competition with anything else. I feel like every crypto is in competition with every other one other than Bitcoin. And we spoke about the halving and how that would work, and that might have severe consequences on validators basically just cashing out when it's not a valuable time, and then just coming back in, which would be bad. So I think what we've spoke about around node loyalty is big somewhere that needs to be rewarded, and I think the issuance needs to be simple, and I think it needs to be a set number of years, but to achieve all of that without coming up with some kind of major flaw at this point has actually been quite difficult. So my personal thing, if it was I was deciding, it would be this micro halving. It would be probably a halving every year is what I would do, but not a halving, like a quartering or whatever it is. So mini halvings, which I know doesn't make sense when I'm saying mini halvings, because a halving indicates it's half, but you see what I'm saying? And almost have a set day every year where that happens. But that set day is also potentially a day where you reward loyal nodes. So it's basically like that day is, you're kind of reducing the reward, but you're also, for the people that have been with you for say like a year, each year is rewarded on like that day. So like people step down and step up. That's where I'm at with it. These like mini quarterings. It's kind of like this nice little tiered step down where you're not going to crash the network, because people aren't going to go, oh my god, now my reward for staking X amount is gone down by 50%. Maybe it goes down by 10%, 15%. So that, and they get the nodes get used to that, and hopefully additional transactions and accrual of value of the coin just nicely just offsets that, you'd hope. But the thing is, there's so many unknowns with how many transactions will there be, how many validators will there be day one, what will be the value of the coin after, like, there's so many things that make actually answering it almost impossible. I just think we need to, as a group, come to some consensus, and I think we've ruled out quite a lot of, I don't want to say bad ideas, but flawed concepts. I think eventually we'll get there. So that's what I'd be leaning to. It would be like almost this micro halving over a set number of years that we know, and you have this reward structure, this gamification on the background. I'm intrigued to know what everyone else's thoughts are. Omar, where's your head with the kind of issuance? Greg, where's your head? Because I know everyone's got a slightly different kind of standpoint, which is wonderful. That's the whole beauty of this open, collaborative piece. But it also means sometimes it takes a long time to make a decision. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what your kind of preferred options are or thoughts.
Yeah, and just wanted to say, yeah, it's awesome that we're having all this input and collaboration in kind of thinking through these things, and rather than just some developer goes off and hard codes that into the software and launches the network, right? Which is usually what's kind of happened in these decentralized networks. But yeah, this is amazing that we're thinking through this, and yeah, I would encourage more people to participate and give their inputs and so forth. But yeah, my thinking about it is that, and I've said this like in like a Future of Blockchains conference where I gave a talk, is that I think long term miners are trying to get away from the uncertainty of how much they could earn. Like, this is why we end up with like mining pools, right? Because when you're running a node, and even though you could win the whole block worth of Bitcoin, it might take you like say 6 months or whatever. That huge uncertainty causes everybody to gravitate towards mining pool, where they'd rather just work together, cooperate, and get some steady income, right? So like, I just want to know that if I ran a node for a week and then I stopped, I'm still going to get something during that time for having run that node. And so I think that's important. And because we've seen that happen, I think we can say that it'll be a good thing to have steady rewards. And once you do have steady rewards, that makes it easy for the miners and node operators to calculate other things, right? So if they know that, okay, I'm going to earn, $500 worth of SHM each month, then based on that, I can calculate how much do I want to spend on my hardware. And then I can also calculate, the network is asking me to stake, let's say $5,000 worth of SHM. Well, even if I do that, that amounts to, me getting about 100% APR, right? So, it allows them to do all these other calculations and so forth. So it makes it simple and easy. So I'm, I always kind of thought that it's kind of a sustainable way of doing it is to make sure that all the miners get rewarded in a very predictable way.
Omar, I just had a quick question real quick. Is there any, would that then, could someone then, would that incentivize people to try to manipulate the market as aggressively as possible, where, you try to dump the market and reduce the price, so that you can then, come back in and be a node operator when SHM is a lower value in hopes for it to accrue and then, sell it and then try to, keep manipulating the market price so that when you are operating nodes, you're doing it when SHM is the lowest price possible, so that it accrues in value over time. Would that incentivize market manipulation?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it more, right? Because, if when you do sell your coin, you are taking a risk that maybe the price isn't necessarily going to go down, right? I mean, who out there has the ability to manipulate the market at that level, right? Unless it's a very small market, of course.
Elon Musk is the answer to that question. You can manipulate any market at any time. It's the only guy.
Yeah, right. If you're the only guy, and hopefully, with Shardeum, I'm sure we'll have a lot of people involved, and it would be really difficult to manipulate the market. But yeah, I mean, we do want people to think about it. Hey, if there's a better time for me to join and become a node operator, people are going to think about those kind of things and say, hey, is it worthwhile for me to be an operator right now? And the answer to that will be yes, if there's not a lot of standby nodes. But if the number of standby nodes is, let's say, 10 or 20x the number of active nodes, then your chance of getting in the network is going to be, let's say every 10 days or so forth, So then people pull away some of those standby nodes and say, maybe I should be contributing to another network. So yeah, I mean, these are things that even though we're thinking through a lot of it right now, there's still going to be some things that we still figure out after we launch and actually operate the network.
In terms of this issuance policy and how we reward stakers and whatnot, I feel like in the forum the conversations have kind of gone round and round, which was inevitable, which is good, but there needs to be some output. So I think what the logical thing to do is to basically come up with certain statements that whatever the issuance policy is, that it meets those, so it's fair, it's a set number of years, it rewards loyal nodes. There's probably 5 to 10 of these statements that have come out of the chats that are definitive that we need to do, and then off the back of that, there's probably only a couple of possible solutions, and that rather than just thinking about everything, should it be Bitcoin-like, should it be Solana-like, should it be Avalanche-like? If we just have these 10 statements, then it can be Shardium-like, and if that's exactly like Bitcoin or exactly like, that's fine. But if it's not, then at least we know why it's not. Because I feel like it could be a never-ending conversation, because ultimately the problem with it is there's no data points to go with, because even though there is lots of other chains out there, there's lots of cryptocurrencies, none of them have become mature. So even take Bitcoin, we don't know what happens when Bitcoin stops having issuance. Does it crash? There is not a single bit of data to go out that basically says this way of doing it works. So it's all kind of educated guesswork. But I feel like just having those statements and going, right, as long as it meets these criteria, we won't be far away, and at least we can justify what we've gone with. That's probably, I think, the next steps with that. But it's not an easy thing to answer.
Yeah, definitely. We're walking into new territory here with what we're doing. So yeah.
Greg, what's your if you had to decide right now, what would be your preferred? I'm just intrigued. I know there's been a lot of chat, and I'm just intrigued to know what your thoughts are on the whole reward and issuance kind of concept.
Yeah, I'm not like deep tech person in the room. You're clearly far more educated on this stuff than me, but for me, what it all comes down to, in my background, I have experience, trying to align human behavior with, business activities. To have the most productive business, you need to manipulate your employees' minds to, incentivize them to achieve the activities you want them to. That's one of the hardest things in the world, is getting humans to follow the processes you want them to, because we're not just computers where you can send us a lot of code and we'll spit out whatever you input. And so, that concept, the idea of aligning incentives with, the end outcome you want to achieve, I think is really important to think about here, which is the way Shardium scales is by, retaining more nodes and adding more nodes over time. We need to consistently increase the size of our standby pool and consistently add more and more validator nodes as demand for the network increases. So the strategy that we come up with needs to align with that, where it incentivizes, attracting more node operators over time and retaining them. Now I'm not sure what the best approach to that is, but that's why I think some sort of, loyalty incentive should be included, but not be so aggressive where it de-incentivizes other people to join later on in the life cycle of Shardium. So there needs to be a loyalty mechanism, I think, and that whatever issuance strategy we use, it should incentivize long-term retention while also attracting more and more node operators.
And do we have a deadline for when this needs to actually be rock solidly put into a white paper, and this is the way forward? Is it just before mainnet launches? Is it prior to that?
I think during beta net, we'll make sure that as we're getting closer and closer into beta net, that hey, hopefully we figure this out during alpha net, and then be able to try it out, and then maybe even get some feedback from the community and make sure that the implementation is right and all that. And then during beta net, we can make sure that we've pretty much got it solid. And for sure, we better know several months ahead of mainnet launch that hey, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think right now, the business side of Shardium, the business team, we're meeting on average anywhere from 2 to 5 venture capital funds a day and answering due diligence questions. So our time is extremely eaten up by fundraising. But once this round is closed, extremely excited to pivot to execution. And I think this topic right here is one of the most unique things that any university could be researching is what is the most optimal issuance and reward strategy for smart contract platforms, because there is so little information here, and there's so much theory involved in it. So I'm definitely excited to contact a crazy amount of PhDs and universities and invite them to contribute to research here.
I'm actually in the process of writing a paper too about this. I haven't released it yet, but yeah, I want to put that out there and then see what people think. But hopefully, I'll try to make more progress on it this week. We can get it out.
I think another important thing we'll need to do is build some sort of voting mechanism for ideas. Discord's kind of cool, but it's kind of informal as well. There's going to be a lot of ideas on what the best strategy is here, and so how are we going to, take a voting on that?
Yeah. So you remember in Libertas we already have a DAO capability implemented.
Yeah.
We could port a lot of that over into Shardium, and it's almost like it doesn't even require a smart contract to do that. It's actually kind of done at the Shardium protocol level almost.
Yeah. So Ingamel's one thing you missed earlier in this conversation as well is Near Protocol takes 30% of fees generated by smart contracts and sends that to the developer of that smart contract. So basically, like I said that backwards, but basically they give 30% of fees for transactions generated by a smart contract to the developer of that smart contract. And so we were just talking about, is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? Should we do that? Should we do 30% or whatnot? It's an interesting idea to incentivize developers to come to Shardeum by giving them 30% of fees their smart contract generates. We just need to determine, should we do 30%? Should we actually implement that, or is there a better way to incentivize developers? That's something else that's interesting to think about. But I think Brightly Stake, it looks like you've been waiting to ask a question.
Yeah, it's more of sharing an experience with running different systems, right? So basically, we have been running around 12 different chains as validators. So there's like 3 different approaches we have seen. So basically, one which is unique is in Moonbeam and Moonriver, where there is no concept of commission, right? Wherein like there is a fixed amount of emission from inflation that will be given to Qualitas. And so there is no thing to worry about the commission. Basically, there will be somebody who will be having 0% commission, attracting a large number of people and then kind of misbehaving. So you can avoid that with that kind of an approach. Whereas the other approach would be to have any number of in Cosmos, right? Basically, in any Cosmos chain, you can have a fixed percentage or 0% or whatever it is, depending upon how much is being staked. A percentage of that would be coming to you as rewards. Then again, you have Casper, so that is also kind of similar, but they had something like a validator sale, which kind of need to happen to kind of ensure that they have some trusted nodes initially to cover some amount of coins to have that as security for them, because they can't let everything to public and then kind of pose that risk of having 66% or like 67% being taken over. So it's like different approaches we have seen, but again, everything has its own pros and cons, because if you have a fixed amount of money being given out as rewards, then you tend to risk of having low quality validator nodes, because people will definitely do that. Because in Casper, what happened in testnet was there were around 300 and 400 testnet nodes, which a fixed amount of money that was being provided. Then eventually what they had to do was to kind of bring in some performance score to kind of check or metrically check what is the performance of every node, because people tend to have like a £10 node or like $12 nodes to kind of start the chain. And what eventually happens would be that the time and the capacity to kind of process the transaction would be very less. So that is again not very beneficial. Same thing happened in Moonbeam as well. So that's why in Moonbeam what they did was to have processors to have minimum of I9, and then they were choosing Qualitas and then kind of grading them based on how they have performed in the testnet, and then do things. Another example with Axelar was that, okay, fine. In Axelar, it's a different scenario, since we had to have 6 or 7 RPC nodes outside of the main network. So there was a huge investment that again is needed for that particular validators to kind of provide. So basically, different chains has a different sort of approaches, but again, at the end of the day, it will be determined based on what we wanted to achieve, right? If you want high quality nodes, then the rewards will have to be kind of distributed unevenly. If you have it distributed in an even manner, then the chances of getting high quality nodes might be little lower, because people tend to have more profit with low quality nodes rather than high quality nodes. So if you want to have higher quality of validated nodes, then the rewards will have to kind of be tagged towards the metric. That's when we will be able to achieve that. If that is not the intention, if we can even run with minimal quality nodes, then it's a different scenario, wherein like you don't have to worry about the hardware that we're going to provide and stuff.
Yeah, and one of the things that we wanted to do to prevent people from running low quality nodes was have some, a mechanism for kicking out nodes that are not performing well, and possibly also having some slashing associated with that. So then it disincentivizes someone from running a node that, just for the heck of it, let me try to collect some money, even though I'm running a bad node. You could actually end up losing money
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brandon,
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you have a lot of valuable experience working in different, staking in different smart contract platforms, and you've learned a lot from these different platforms. I don't know about everyone else, but I acknowledge information and learn much better when I read it on paper. So I'd really appreciate it after this call if on Discord, you just write out some of your thoughts in Discord and share it with us so we can all read it there and conversate with you.
Sure. Yeah.
But Omar, it's what your schedule looks like. It looks like we've been on here for an hour and 40 minutes now. It's been a really good conversation, and super excited for everyone to be contributing and have so many intelligent minds here in the community. Didn't know if you wanted to wrap up. I at least have to jump and spend some family time.
Yeah, I gotta get going as well. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for joining, and it's been a really good conversation. And yeah, let's keep at it. And there's still, we have plenty of time still to think through these kind of things before we get to our mainnet launch and try out various ways of doing node reward, maybe even during AlphaNet and BetaNet. So yeah.
Yep. It's going to be a really exciting month for Shardium this month. We have our demo on Monday. We're going to be showing a lot of exciting tech there, and just it'll be a good conversation between Ishal and Omar. So excited for you guys and everyone watching this to join that conversation on Monday. And hope you all.
Yeah, definitely come to that demo on Monday. Hopefully we'll show some really cool stuff. We were up pretty late last night trying it out ourselves. So, all right, great.
Sure, excited to be there.
All right, take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Greg.